Think, Build, Launch podcast. This is an extension of Marl Accelerator. Marl is an early-stage accelerator fund for startups developing deep tech products and services for enterprise customers using 5G technology. Marl aims to create a community of investors, founders, and corporate venture teams in sectors like mobility, AR/VR, autonomous, robotics, and logistics. We invest in the next generation of founders that are reshaping the world of enterprise. Our program, Think, Build, Launch, features members of the Marl community, including founders, service providers, and investors. Today's program, first of all, Happy New Year. And today's program is really exciting because the work that our guest has impacts all of us as we're thinking of how it is we're framing our value, how we're learning, how we're sharing information. I'd like to introduce you to Nicholas Monhacky, who is a serial entrepreneur fervently dedicated to leveraging technology and innovation. As the CEO and co-founder of bundleIQ, he is a pioneering visionary. He has a revolutionary approach to content consumption and knowledge sharing, aiming to revolutionize how individuals both comprehend the world and share what they're learning. His mission involves breaking down paywalls that restrict access to invaluable information and envisioning an AI-powered marketplace for democratizing content. Mohnacky honed his experience across diverse domains like online ad sales, app development, digital marketing, and then he became an early adopter for focusing on AI and machine learning. You might already be familiar with his impact through platforms like Enterprise Magazine and Fox Business. Additionally, he's the chairman of the 1909 Foundation. He actively supports budding entrepreneurs while continuing to shape the technological landscape. Mohnacky's unwavering passion revolves around amplifying intelligence to assist individuals navigating an increasingly complex global landscape. You couldn't be here soon enough, and I'm going to refer to him as Nick, as I know him as Nick here. So welcome to the program, Nick.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer. This is great.
This is so much fun. So your journey has spanned various fields: online sales, ad development, digital marketing, and now you are one of the people that I started following early on regarding AI and machine learning. What has inspired you to transition between these diverse areas and ultimately creating bundleIQ?
Well, I'll take you back to 2006 when I got my start in corporate. My one and only corporate job, I worked for Cox Communications and here at the Palm Beach Post, their local property, which now I think is owned by Gannett, a USA Today property. But I was really, really proud of being at a newspaper. And I remember during lunchtime, I would go downstairs to the second floor because advertising and editorial are church and state, as you probably know. So I would go down to the second floor and I would watch the newspaper be printed as I'm eating my lunch. And it was just such a mesmerizing and really awe-inspiring experience to know that was going to be on people's doorstep the next day, and whatever was in that paper was going to potentially change the lives of people that would be reading it, and certainly alter the way by which we interact with each other in this world. So that was my start in kind of as a young adult at the ripe age of 21. And I sort of pinballed my way through how I got to AI, but it really does dovetail and circle back to those early days of information sharing, and ultimately what became from going from traditional media to digital media, and then the adoption of iPhone and all the technologies that sort of got us to where we are today. I mean, the entire media landscape got flipped on its head as soon as this device came out. So, we can talk about AI and that sort of thing, but that was basically how I got into knowledge sharing and information management, and ultimately the democratization of knowledge as we are building today.
So can you take us to, just how you came up with the idea of bundleIQ and your commitment around, because, most of the loops that you were part of were pretty privileged loops, deciding what stories get to be told and then disseminating them. And what you've created is pretty remarkable in its almost breaking down the paradigm that you kind of grew up in. So how did you come to bundleIQ?
So I was living part-time in 2019 in Silicon Valley. I was living in Dolores Park in San Francisco, and I had just closed down my agency that I had, and I was sort of trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. I knew that I didn't want to be a service provider anymore, and I had this idea by a couple different things. I read this book called Wiki Management, which was pretty interesting, and it helped me kind of understand like how technology can influence um, change management, decision making, that sort of thing. And then I read another book by Thomas Malone, who was the founder of collective intelligence at MIT, called Superminds. And this book was pretty profound. It kind of rocked me a little bit, but really got me down this path of ultimately trying to figure out how man and machine could work together to ultimately create a system that could support your understanding of the world, and most importantly, leveraging the strengths of both parties, so that we could solve some of the world's most pressing problems. And ultimately, bundleIQ was kind of a combination of those two things, that sort of led me to build this, what we call is kind of a supermind for research and sense making.
So sense making is, in a few circles we use the word sense making, but in terms of our listeners, I think that might be a new term. Can you unpack it for us?
Yeah, so at the highest level, you think about how you approach the way by which you solve problems. And intelligence, by definition, is the ability to solve a problem. So you think about, if we were to look at like this pyramid, at like a food pyramid, at the very bottom is data. Those are the bits and bytes and all the unstructured things that exist in the world. And then the next layer up is information, which is structured data. It's your ability to start to make sense of the data. Maybe you take letters and you put them into sentence form. Now you can start to have some level of understanding of what it is that you're reading. And then above information is knowledge, and knowledge is a formula. It's the ability to solve a problem. It's the thing that you need in order to solve a problem. So if I want to solve for a linear equation, I need to know that the formula is y equals ax plus b. Or maybe if I need to make banana bread, I need to have a recipe. That's knowledge. And information would be like the grocery list, so to speak. Knowledge is the recipe of like how to make banana bread. And then the next layer is intelligence, and that is like being able to take the knowledge and actually arrive at the desired outcome. And that is the ability to solve the problem. And then at the top of the pyramid is wisdom, and that is knowing what to do with knowledge. So this sense making kind of, it starts on the information layer, and then it goes into like this knowledge layer, which is like putting information into practice so that you can arrive at a formula so that you can then solve the problem. And we've done a really good job in society at aggregating data, and I think we've done a great job at wrangling structured data with CRMs and spreadsheets and all these business intelligence and all these things. But where we are today is in the information age, is that we've broken Moore's law, we've got all this information, but there's so much of it. So it's kind of like we have to go from that information layer to that knowledge layer, and then ultimately to that intelligence layer. In order to break, through those two thresholds, go up those additional rungs, it takes a tremendous amount of processing power to start to, kind of compress this information to actionable insights that you can start to do something with it. But you can only do that in context to the things that the problems that you're trying to solve. So, that's where we are today, is like, how do we get to, like, how do we enter the intelligence age? Well, you've got to take knowledge and problem solving in context in order to get there.
That's great. I mean, to our listeners, you just got a masterclass in systems thinking by someone that I've studied and loved, Russ Askoff, and you did it in such a great way that I love that we're in this intelligence age. And people thought it was plastics, and then it went to software. And as we enter 2024, it is cognition and intelligence. Thank you for that. really, I hope people will re-listen and re-listen and re-listen, because that's pretty fundamental to where we're headed. Um, your involvement with the 1909 Foundation indicates a commitment to supporting entrepreneurs, and that's actually why we were so happy to have you in the Marl community as a guest. How does the Foundation 1909 contribute to innovation? And tell us a little bit about the growth journey in that investment thesis.
Yeah, so I walk around this town of sort of, I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida, which is, known for a lot of things. There's a lot of things that people also know it for, but I know it as a town that it's where coconuts grow. It's the closest place to, like, in the continental U.S. to Hawaii, where I grew up. We've got, beautiful blue water and ocean, and it's just like a beloved place. I've been here for 21 years. I moved here when I was 17. Have lived in California a couple times, but this is home. And one of the things that I realized, and you talked about having 800,000 students in your regional area up by Rochester. We don't have a tier one university here. So in the absence of a tier one school, it really lacks a lot of talent, and ultimately it's really difficult to attract talent and to attract large corporations to the city because of that. So a lot of oh, Siri just turned on. I don't know if you can hear that.
Welcome, Siri. Welcome.
Sorry.
Happy New Year, Siri.
Sorry about that.
That's great.
So in the absence of a tier one university, and knowing that I wanted to be here because the quality of life is so incredible, I said, man, like I need to attract more people, or see where the people are that are like me, that want to build things here. And so I started hosting events, and brought Global Entrepreneurship Week, and had the Mayor Institute the second week in November is now Global Entrepreneurship Week in our city. Created the first public-private partnership to support early stage founders. Created a co-working space, and then an incubator, and then an accelerator program. And so 1909 is a 501c3 nonprofit that now has over 230 entrepreneurs that operate out of here. And it was such a blessing. I always told people that people would move to West Palm if they had a reason to. Just because it's so amazing here, and COVID ultimately gave people that reason. So, we've been on the receiving end of a lot of talent coming from the Northeast, and people needed a soft place to land, and they found us here. And thankfully, for the last 10 years, I've been at the forefront of building this ecosystem to support those people, and it's just been so much fun, and now it's like way bigger than me and the staff and our board. I mean, it's like a living, breathing thing that's like out there into the world, that other markets are even looking at and hiring us as like consultants to help them do the same in other cities across the United States.
It's neat that in a way you were part of the future, and then you went to kind of a place that wasn't, I don't want to say less sophisticated, but it didn't have the awarenesses that you had. And because you'd been to the future and you were able to come with a vision, and you're now able to build that space and really help raise, not only capital, but start, I love those, I just love the vision, and I love that it started so authentic. It's almost like you were solving a need. There was an intellectual loneliness that then caused you to create this environment that now is thriving and growing. You've been referred to as the surfing entrepreneur, and I'm just really curious to know, how is entrepreneurship like surfing? Because one, I'm from Denver, Colorado, with no water, and we do have water in Rochester, but most people sail on that water. Not a lot of surfing happens. So tell us about it.
Yeah, as a surfer, you sort of have to become an amateur weatherman. A lot of your time and energy is spent analyzing the data, and starting to make sense of it so that you can be in the right spot and go to the right places at the right time when the wind's in the right direction, all that kind of stuff. So when you think about entrepreneurship, I mean, it's that like obsession that really carries you forward. And you get, you just go down these rabbit holes that other people just would never take the time to do. And you end up in a place that, can be very scary. when you paddle out in certain places, the waves can be big or turbulent, or maybe it's only 4 or 5 feet deep and the reef is, just below you. But in order to continue to like build up that courage and ultimately overcome a lot of these, these really significant and consequential experiences, you have to be fortified, and the only way you can do it is by practice and obsession. And there's like so many parallels and like the things that that invigorate you as a surfer and the things that drive you as an entrepreneur. And as you like wade into those waters, you're constantly jockeying for position amongst a sea of other people, of other entrepreneurs, and you're sort of like, your local knowledge of a wave can put you in the right position. And in a lot of ways, like I've been a futurist, and other companies that I've started, and even 1909 to a degree, I've either ran out of money before the market caught up because I was so far ahead of it. I was like so in tune with like what I believed to be true, but I was like literally on the bleeding edge of it. Um, or the timing was right, and as the swells were feathering on the horizon, I was like paddling into position where other people were like over here. And then, I was able to catch in surfing terms the set wave, which is like the best one out of, the 3 or 4 that might come through. And that's how I feel about where we are with bundleIQ. I mean, we started on this journey in, 2019. I met Greg Brockman on Clubhouse in like 2020, 2021 maybe. Um, and I was on the OpenAI Slack channel when there was like maybe a couple hundred people. And, I learned about transformers and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, those are some of the parallels with surfing and entrepreneurship.
That's so great. And, earlier you gave us kind of a masterclass on what is sense making, but I'm getting that your ability to trust your senses is both important in entrepreneurship as well as in surfing. And just really, just intuition is something that's so significant. I'm really interested in the essential qualities or mindsets that you believe are essential for entrepreneurs to cultivate, really how to succeed in today's business environment. Are there maybe, 3 or 4 that you think are essential?
Yeah, there are many, but so I have this game that I play with myself where if I like close my eyes, I imagine like a bar chart, and there's 3 bars, and it's gonna sound maybe a little cheesy, but it's mind, body, and spirit. And I like play this game to see like where am I kind of just checking in, like where are the bars? Are they like are they kind of lopsided? Are they like, and the goal is to get them all on the same plane.
Mm-hmm.
And as an entrepreneur, you use your mind a lot, and you're constantly like, again, like surfing, like you're just obsessed with the data, and you're like trying to work things out and process and be creative and connect the dots. Um, but to balance that, and this is where like, mental health and I think overall well-being really are the key attributes that, I would encourage people to focus on if you're listening to this, is the body piece, which is the physical aspect of it, and then the spirit piece, which is like the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect of it. And like I like, again, I like do really really tough things. I ran an ultra marathon a couple months ago. I've run across the Grand Canyon and back. I've biked across Florida, and I'm running a marathon on Sunday. Like I do really like hard shit. Um, and that's because like if I did, at least for me personally, if I didn't do that, like I would just go crazy. Like my mental aspect, I need to like find some balance there. And then the spiritual aspect is really more about like purpose and just kind of a transcendence of like of like zooming out and seeing yourself in the world, and just observing, so that you can have some semblance of like, okay, am I going in the right direction? Is this really like, am I doing who am I doing this for? For me, for my ego, for somebody else, for the world? Like, you're just having those like really philosophical conversations with yourself to ensure that you're aligned with like your sense of purpose and your why. Ultimately, like entrepreneurship's hard is the hardest thing ever. So it's like, you got to give yourself a reason to wake up every day and get back to it, even when it's seemingly as difficult as it's probably ever going to be.
Well, I'm learning about surfing for the first time with you, but I feel like having you as our very first guest of 2024 is like catching a set wave from the standpoint of really kind of ending the program with the message of self-care and self-knowledge and the idea that you're not only a mind, but you have a body that you need to take care of, and that you also have a spirit and you have energy that impacts an ecosystem, but it's also, being able to have energy to fulfill your dreams and, connect with people is so important. So I think that's a really great way to end our program today. We would like to thank Nicholas Monhacky, CEO and founder of bundleIQ, for being our guest today. We would also like to thank the Marl community of partners. We have just a really incredible ecosystem, which is great. I'd also like to thank our producer, Scott Fitzgerald, here at RockFox Studio. If you have an idea and want to know more about our program, connect with me at jennifer@marlaccelerator.com. Please subscribe to our program, and we will continue to share insights to how to frame your value proposition, raise capital, and design for scale. This is Jennifer Sertle. Thank you for joining us.